because, well, it was just, at that time, it just seemed like the thing to do. Now I'd say that kids that age were too young to get married. But anyway, if you couldn't go on to school, you might as well just get on with what you were going to do in life, and that's what we decided that we wanted to do. The first year and a half that we were married, we lived with Carl's parents. And that was a little hard for me because I was used to having lots of commotion around, and their house was pretty quiet. But Carl's parents were real good to me. They told me that I could have any of my brothers and sisters come and stay with me if I wanted to. That worked out real good because Carl's father loved children, and he could just enjoy taking one of my sisters or brothers to town to buy ice cream and ride around the country with him in his Ford car. And then at the time, just before our son was born, before Kenneth was born, we decided that we needed to live by ourselves because it was just, well, just a little bit too hard to live with Grandpa and Grandma Carpenter. Not because there was anything wrong and that we didn't get along, but we just wanted to be by ourselves. So in their yard they had what they called a tenant house, which was just a very small two-room house. So we asked Grandma Carpenter if she would let us paper and paint it and move into it, which is what we did. And we thought it was just the nicest place to live. It's very cold in winter. If we left any water in the water pail, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have any bathroom, but if we left any water in the water pail, it would be froze solid in the morning. So you can see that we needed lots of covers on our bed. And
you had to cuddle then too, huh?
I guess we did. I can see that Pat knows what they do. Well, anyway, shortly after we were married, the Big Depression hit, and it really hit us because we had put money in the bank to save to buy a few pieces of furniture and a few pieces of machinery that Carl thought we needed to farm. And about that time, we had decided to move to another farm that was about 1.5 miles away so that Carl could still use his dad's machinery. And then he could also go there and help with the farming that needed to be done on his father's farm. We lived on 3 different farms during that area because farms at that time weren't owned. Most of them were owned by the insurance companies, and they rented them out. And so that was the way we paid for our rent, was to give half of the crop, and then we had to pay money for the pasture rent. Well, we were getting a little bit tired of living, like that. And one year, then Carl's father passed away. And so then different arrangements needed to be made on the farm, on his parents' farm. And at that time, Carl's mother wanted to go to Montana to visit her sister. And so they found that it would cost $90 round fare for her to go out to Montana.
What was her sister's name?
Her sister's name was Lena.
And that was out in what part of Montana?
It was at Kalispell, Montana. And so we went and took her in our Ford car, which by that time we had a sedan, which was closed in, no trunk. And so we took her and our 2 children, and then my sister Irene went too, so you can imagine how crowded up we were on this trip. And the roads weren't like they are now. They were very primitive, mostly graveled, but we thought it was just the most wonderful trip, and it was a beautiful place to visit. We went through the Glacier National Park, and then we went through Yellowstone Park, which we thought were just the most beautiful places we'd ever seen.
Was it hard to find gas for your car?
No.
No.
And we stayed at tourist camps
Mm.
that in those days weren't like the motels that we have now. They just were very crude, but just the way people traveled then. But while we were gone, the farm that we were on was sold. So then we knew we had to move. Well, by that time, Carl's brother had got married, and he was living on the home farm. So we had to find something else to do. So we went to, we heard about this place at Walker, Iowa, that had a little dairy farm. And so we bought that from this man that owned it, who wanted to retire. And through that year, we sold milk to this man's customers. And at that time, milk was 5 cents a quart and had to be put into bottles, which we did night and morning. And then we had a neighbor boy that helped to deliver it to the people around town. But Carl wasn't just happy with that. Well, then he heard of a man that had a truck that he wanted to sell, which was well, it would be like an 18-wheeler now. And Carl was rather adventuresome, and he wanted to do something different, so we bought that truck, which was really a